Hi, it's Mike, the host of the longest running self-produced daily podcast on planet Earth by a guy named Mike in the land of Meritopia here in Podcastro Valley, the last place on Earth. It is Mike's Daily Podcast, FF episode 3109, 3109. A little bit later in the podcast, we talk about a band that some of you may have remembered called Rare Earth. But first, someone who just about everyone knows today, even though if you're old like me, you may not know all of her songs. But I did actually meet her when she was, I guess 16 or 17. She was super young. I was a little bit younger. And this was in the mid-2000s. I'm talking about Taylor Swift. She had really long curly hair back then, which she has straightened out and done all kinds of things to over the years. And back then she was just doing like a country folk type of country pop thing. That was big. She had a couple of cute songs like Our Song, which was huge, kind of an upbeat tune. She was smart because a lot of her music had a bit of tempo to it, had a bit of a tap. You could tap your toe to it. It wasn't like slow, dirgy ballads. And people liked that. The song Tim McGraw, even though it was kind of mellow, still had a bit of tempo to it. So country radio is like, oh, cool. Who's this person? She's got a nice voice. Wait, what? She's super young and she writes her own songs? That's amazing. And then we know the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say, the rest of the story with all the pop songs that she had over the years. Well, she owns the rights to all of her music. She got, at long last, the rights back. This was a month ago. She is the star of Cats. Does anyone want to remember that? Probably not. She brought back her catalog. She bought it back from private equity firm Shamrock Capital. She reportedly shelled out, the number here is $360 million. Shamrock paid $325 million to acquire the library back in 2020. So they made about $30 million. She's lost control of her first 6 albums in 2019 when her original label, Big Machine Records, sold the rights. Big Machine Records. What became of Big Machine Records? I remember hearing about that when she first came out. And then we got this new label called Big Machine. Big Machine was formed in 2005. So 20 years ago. It was named Big Machine after a song that had come out the year before by Velvet Revolver, which was the band that had Scott Weiland of the band The Social Distortion. No, it was the other one that'll come to me in a second. And also, I think Slash was in it and somebody else from Guns N' Roses. And yeah, it was that band that spawned the song Big Machine. So technically the label that gave Taylor Swift her big break, she has some kind of strange connection to the late Scott Weiland with that bit of interesting trivia. The first signees to Big Machine, the first people that signed on, were Jack Ingram, and I have quite a few of his records, Jack Ingram, and Danielle Peck. I don't really remember Danielle, but it's interesting. So there was a female artist that was on the label that didn't quite take off, that was later completely outshone by Taylor Swift. Jack Ingram, on the other hand, had a couple of big songs on the Americana charts. He had a song called Wherever You Are. It was actually a #1 song, and I don't think you hear it anymore on country radio. Yeah, as I recall, that was a pretty good tune. I liked some of Jack Ingram's stuff. So soon after Big Machine released Taylor Swift's first ever recording, the song Tim McGraw, and that was off of her debut album, Taylor Swift. Toby Keith, the late Toby Keith, was affiliated with the label, but he dropped his affiliation in 2006. But he was reportedly an equity holder in the label as recent as 2014, along with the Swift family and Scott Borchetta. He was a big-time producer who had worked with DreamWorks, which was a huge country music label that had a lot of big hits with Toby Keith. It's funny because Toby Keith and the Dixie Chicks always had this big feud going on. And the Dixie Chicks absolutely love Taylor Swift. Taylor loves the Dixie Chicks and says that it was that band particularly, that really inspired her to become a singer-songwriter. When they were really big in the late 90s, the Dixie Chicks, there were a lot of young ladies that got really interested in becoming musicians and singer-songwriters because the three members of the Dixie Chicks, all women, of course, were playing fiddles and guitar and excellent singers. Taylor lost control of her first 6 albums in 2019 when the original label Big Machine Records sold the rights. Since 2019, she has re-recorded 4 of those albums and labeled them as Taylor's versions in an attempt to reclaim ownership. The Shamrock Company still made a fortune, though, of around $100 million while it owned Taylor's first 6 albums. Taylor Swift, of course, has since become a billionaire in 2023, and she had the big Eras tour. And you ask anybody who's under the age of, let's say 45, and they'll tell you just about every single Taylor Swift song that's out there. If they're female, I would say, if I can make a gross overgeneralization. But it's not gross, it's Café Anyway. Let's go inside right now. I just cleaned it. Café Anyway. Welcome to Café Anyway. Okay.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
It is episode 3109, and Mike Matthews. Now he's going to sing.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Oh, help us. This is Mike and my sarcastic voice. Some people think that sarcasm is a choice, but it's not. It's in your blood, your DNA. You cannot help yourself the way you say certain things. And you get sarcastic sometimes. That's all right.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
You have to be able to detect sarcasm as well and read your
Mike's
sarcastic
Daily
person
Podcast
doing the delivery, and understand what they are trying to make a comment about, and that it is in fact meant for laughter. Because if you can't laugh at life and yourself and everything else, then why what is the saying that I found it on a recent show, and I left a note for myself saying that this is good. Keep it, Mike. Let's see. Rare earth materials, not that rare. That's not it. Let's see. So, Zoe cycle racers give up their Father's Day to fight for those torn from families. Okay, that's a nice thing. That's not it either. It's tokenized real estate. I don't even know what that. Speak up for AM radio. Life's a joke. Here it is. Okay. AI decided to tell me there was some provision in the BBB that they took out, both Republicans and Democrats, that had to do with artificial intelligence, and I'm not sure what it was, but they almost unanimously, both parties agreed to take it out. So who was the idiot that put it in is what I want to know, because neither one liked it. So that's it. So,
and here's today's podcast picture.
Great album from Peter Gabriel, who was in the band Genesis, and he had another band, I think it was called Big Blue Ball, something like that. Big Blue. He did a little side project. I think it was just one album. And he had that Celtic something band that he was with. The podcast picture's not of any of that, but of myself and my lovely lady friend, and a recent excursion we made to the very cool Sulphur Creek Nature Center, where they rehabilitate wild animals that are in dire need of help. We saw a fox there and a coyote, but not the late great Basil the Boxer there, sadly, no. And he never got to go there. You can't take dogs or cats there because they've got these animals that really, like birds, all kinds of different birds, crows that have been rehabilitated. A turkey vulture that's been there since the 80s. No, you heard me right. Since the 80s. I think they call him Prince Charming. There's also like a red-tailed hawk, different owls, screech owls, horned owls. Is that it? The barn owl, which is, oh my gosh, that just melts your heart when you see it. Any owl is amazing, but something about that horned rim owl, dang. I mean, the barn owl, very cool. And it's so owls make life grand is what I'm trying to say.
Life grand.
It's true. The screech owls. Screech owls are very small but very cute. And then the horned owl is I'm just not saying that right, am I? Well, none of those owls are seen in this picture, but it's the great horned owl. That's what it is. Okay. What, so majestic. And fascinating because I guess what looks like they're also called the winged tiger, or the tiger of the air, also known as a tiger owl and hoot owl, native to the Americas. A very adaptable bird with a vast range and is the most widely distributed true owl in the Americas. It eats rabbits, rats, mice, larger mid-sized mammals even, birds, reptiles, amphibians, invertebrates. That's also compared to the red-tailed hawk, which I also saw. They had one of those at this Sulphur Creek Nature Preserve. And the name, let's see, it represents...
News random.
This is the news random to bring you. So they have a facial disc. It can be reddish brown or gray in color, depending on the geographical and racial variation, and is demarked by a dark rim culminating in bold blackish side brackets. Their eyebrow like horns. Are they eyebrows or are they horns? They are tufts of feathers, and they're actually called plumicorns. The purpose of plumicorns is not fully understood. They just look really dang cool. But the hypothesis is that they serve as a visual cue in territorial and sociosexual interactions with other owls. That is the hypothesis. Wow. And you know they're just gonna...
Like scavenger hunt.
They're just gonna look and look. They're gonna be on a scavenger hunt for a Tootsie Pop. Because they're gonna try and get to the center of a Tootsie Pop. It just takes 3 bites. A 1, a 2, and a 3. Don't ask the turtle. Turtle doesn't know. He never done it without biting. But the owl can get right in there. It's fascinating. And all you people younger than me, well, much younger than me, may not know that. But I think they did pull out that commercial again for Tootsie Pops later. So maybe some of you youngins saw it too recently. Look it up on YouTube. It's a pretty funny animated commercial from like the 70s. Okay, the point is that life is strange. Like I mentioned in a previous podcast, perhaps the last one, which was mentioned. I mentioned NVIDIA. We talked about
For your entertainment.
Oh, we're outside.
The one, the only.
Who?
Mike Matthews.
Oh, that's me. Outside of Café Anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valley, the last place on earth in the land of Ameritopica. Last podcast was called Envy, because we were talking about NVIDIA, and that is where the name of that company comes from. It's a variation on the Latin word for envy, which is NVIDIA. But yes, so they say life is a journey, but I'm pretty sure I lost the map, took a wrong turn, and now I'm just vibing in uncharted territory. Yes, I used the word vibing. I don't like to. That word seems entirely too new for me to use. But there are 2 rules in life. This is the main one. 2 rules in life. Don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff. Those are the 2 rules. And life is just a game where the only rule is don't take it too seriously because no one makes it out alive. That's the other one to remember. It's important.
Yo, the mic tip.
That's my tip to you. My mic tip, if you will. For lack of a better term. All right, we'll hang on to that life's a joke thing and that life is strange thing and just keep it in the back of our minds thing because it was there. And look who's here. Hello, Mike Matthews. It's Chely Shoehart, gift shop supervisor. Yeah, hours are like so cool, Mike Matthews. That's great. And how are your many projects going? Yeah, you ask me that every podcast, and I don't really care anymore, Mike Matthews. You don't care? You were like this budding entrepreneur innovator, and you don't care? You know, Mike Matthews, I don't really care anymore because rare earth materials are not that rare. It's almost as if you pulled that from an article from the MSN.com. That rare earth elements, REEs, or B, isn't that the gal?
Wow, shucks, wow.
Pioneer Woman? Wow, shucks, wow. We're talking about Pioneer Woman all of a sudden. Let's talk about the video. I'll never have a video as nice looking as any of the cooking videos that she does, but I am wearing a very cool burgundy because I'm Ron Burgundy. And keep it classy, San Diego. And it is a collared shirt. And I am only wearing this to just look nice, look somewhat professional as I do the video for my podcast, which you can see at mikesdailypodcast.com, also on my Facebook page for Mike's Daily Podcast. So, that being said, the rare earth elements, also called rare earth metals or rare earths, and sometimes the lanthanides or lanthanoids, although scadium and yttrium, which do not belong in this series, are usually included as rare earths, are a set of 17 nearly indistinguishable, lustrous, silvery white, soft, heavy metals.
The Newsbleed section.
Yes, we are definitely in a Newsbleed section here. Put your own joke in there about heavy metal. Compounds containing rare earths have diverse applications in electrical and electronic components, including lasers. Oh, so you may have heard on Tuesday that Trump was at the Alligator Alcatraz, which, as someone that lives not too far away from the actual Alcatraz, I'm so happy he didn't turn that into the compound of stopping, putting the migrants that are the illegal migrants there. Because for one thing, it is a tourist attraction now. Another thing, it is right next to San Francisco, so San Franciscans are not in any way down with anything Trump is doing with immigrants right now, the ones that are illegally here.
Encyclopedia in Seneca.
That's what I found in Seneca by the company called Encyclopedia. So I just think it was much smarter to put it in a red state, which I don't know if Florida, was it always a red state? I feel like it was a blue state at least one election in my lifetime. And oh yeah, so just really quickly, he was there today or Tuesday. He wasn't there today. He was in Florida on Tuesday. Sorry, I got my days slightly mixed up because of, I don't know, the lasers and the glass and the magnetic materials that are in the rare earths. But he did mention that, hey, if you get out of here, you're going to have to try and navigate all these alligators, which made me think of sharks with laser beams. Why didn't he put laser beams on top of the alligator heads? If he really didn't want the alligators would have laser beams on their heads, that would be. So back to lasers. magnetic materials, industrial processes. The term rare earth is a misnomer.
Matthews News.
This is my Matthews News by way of MSN. Because they are not actually scarce. But historically, it took a long time to isolate these elements. They are relatively plentiful in the entire Earth's crust. Let's say it says here, for you scientific types, cerium, being the 25th most abundant element at 68 parts per million, is more abundant than copper. What copper is abundant? Tell that to the guy that just tore out a huge chunk of copper out of the thing down the block that powers my internet, my fiber, which, by the way, the internet went down today a couple times, and you know who was on it? Not AT&T, because we ain't using AT&T fiber anymore. No way. We're using Sonic. They immediately texted us to let us know that they were working on it, and they had it fixed super fast. Unlike
it's a nightmare of a show.
The nightmare of a show that is AT&T, that took over a work week and took 6 days. Basically, all of them sick days for me because I was stressed out of my mind. But in practice, rare earth materials, they are spread thinly as trace impurities. So to obtain rare earths at usable purity requires processing enormous amounts of raw ore at a great expense. Thus the name rare earths. Rare earth is also an amazing rock band from Detroit, Michigan, huge in the 60s. Are we going to do a band's mutation here? I don't know how much they actually mutated. Just talking about I guess they did change a little bit throughout the years, because they did exist all the way up until the 90s, it looks like. The band suffered the loss of one of their members. Well,
first of all, I just want to thank everyone for joining us here on this show. This is great.
Thank you for listening. I guess their drummer, their percussionist, Eddie Guzman, died in 1993 at age 49. And I guess somebody else passed away. But Rare Earth was the band that did the song in the 60s. That, for those of you who may not know, they did Get Ready. Oh, Get Ready, which was actually a remake of a Temptation song. And they also covered I Know I'm Losing You. But Get Ready was their biggest hit, peaking at number 4 on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100 chart. They gained a bit of notoriety when it was mentioned. Oh, yeah. Gil Scott-Heron, in his poem, The Revolution Will Not Be Televised, in 1970, included the theme. He included this line. The theme song to The Revolution will not be written by Jim Webb, Francis Scott Key. By the way, Jim Webb wrote a fantastic song called I Am the Lineman for the County.
Wine.
Well, I like
The whiny white man wine list.
Not wine list, but line. Not wine, but line. And the Wichita lineman is still on the line. And if you can hit that note, which I just not even did, you are an excellent singer. Jim Webb. So Gil Scott-Heron said the theme song to the Revolution will not be written by Jim Webb. Francis Scott Key, of course, wrote the national anthem, nor sung by Glenn Campbell, who sings Wichita Lineman. Tom Jones, who, of course, was Glenn Campbell, Rhinestone Cowboy. What a song. Tom Jones, What's New Pussycat? Johnny Cash. Gil had a thing against country singers. Johnny Cash, of course. Engelbert Humperdinck. And he goes, or the Rare Earth. So I guess he gave them a shout out in a very well-known poem that even I did not hear it till I was in my 30s. But I was blown away. In 1972, Motown had decided to relocate from Detroit to LA, and Rare Earth soon followed suit because they were part of them. NBC reported that about this time, police found reputed mob enforcer Joe Ulloa started financing the band, which seems to have resulted in the band members being eventually harassed by strangers several years later asking if they were hiding the money. Wow. They were occasionally the opening act at California Jam Festival. That is in Ontario, California. Let's see. They were the opening act in 1974. It looks like attracted over 250,000 people and had rock groups like Black Sabbath, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Deep Purple, Earth, Wind and Fire, who wrote the song. What's the cliche of the week? Seals and Crofts. Oh yeah, summer breeze makes me feel fun. I had a summer breeze today blowing through my hair, which I don't have. And the Eagles were at this concert too. Blowing through the jasmine of my mind. All right, so there's a little bit of information about Rare Earth. And if you want more,
What's the cliche of the week?
they what?
What's the cliche of the week?
Oh,
What's the cliche of the week?
I just want to celebrate. I forgot that song.
What's the cliche of the week?
The Dino Fakaris was his name. He also wrote I Will Survive for Gloria Gaynor and got a Grammy Award for that. Man, there's just so much about Rare Earth, the band and the mineral. Wow. So much going on with that. That's fascinating. Oh, what was the cliche of the week? That just went right by us and didn't even stop to say who it was. Probably the word vibe. It's a cliche. I've made it a cliche. You may use it if you want, but just realize it's a cliche. Okay, thank you. Look who else is here.
Hello there, Mike. This is Valentino, the parking attendant.
And this is Bites and Bentley. Do you know that?
And this is Floyd the Floorman.
And this is John Deere, the engineer. Mike, we thought we'd get together and do a Rare Earth cover band. Oh, wow. I will get ready for that song and band and performance and concert. And
Oh my gosh!
The bottom of the chart.
Pretty good songs that never made it on the radio because people didn't think they were worth. But you know what? They come back up and people start playing them, and it's like, oh, where'd that come from?
guess I flubbed that joke. But that's okay. We're going to wrap this up. And real quick, thank you so much. What do you think? You can call me with this number.
Call Mike at the Café Anyway hotline. Area code 510-228-4640. Will you shut ups? Liberty Nation Freedom Foam for all.
And with all things having to do with Mike's Daily Podcast, I didn't even completely tell you what that podcast picture was of the goats. It's the goats. Because here in the Bay Area, the magnificent goats show up. And some sheep. And they eat all the dried grass on the hillside. And I watched this one goat just totally tear apart like this thistle, with really sharp, just the sharp leaves and everything. Just ate it, just crunched it all up like it was just a big chunk of delicious salad. And ate it all up like it was nothing and wanted more. So thank you to all the goats and sheep that keep our hillsides clear and free from all the horrible fires. Because we got to be aware of that after what happened earlier this year in California. It wasn't even the time of year that we usually get fires, and we got fires galore, as you know, earlier this year. But that's the end of this show. With all things having to do with Mike's Daily Podcast, we go to the main frame and hear from A-Frame. Thank you so much for listening.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com.
Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com.
See you tomorrow. Bye.